It was really hard for me to go sell a dream when I didn't believe in it. I'm broke, just trying to survive.
Welcome to The Standard. My name's Rhett Weaver. The idea behind this project is where average people have raised their standards. We're going to show you the blueprint. Let's do this. I'm excited about this one. We got someone new. We got somebody different.
How's it going, man?
Good. You?
Good. Really good.
No, I'm excited to have Jason on. I've got introduced to him from one of my good buddies, Ryan, that I've known for a really long time.
Yeah.
Has talked a ton about you. Obviously, I want to get into like your RV locations, what you're doing. I mean, dude, you're young.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur, doing a lot of big things. And so I think a lot of people are going to be super excited. How did you grow that at such a young age? But right. I think before we kind of dive into that, I want to know a little bit. All of my podcasts start this way. I want to know where you grew up, what life was like growing up. You know what I'm saying? What the family dynamic was and everything like that. So I guess kind of start out like where did you grow up?
So I just grew up right here. I mean, you literally can actually see my old childhood house from your house right here. I grew up, well, I guess, I was born about a mile away from that house, but when I was in fourth grade, I, basically
just right up there in Uinta.
Right up there in Uinta.
Yeah.
And that, it was awesome. Loved living there. I went to high school. I went, preschool, elementary, junior high, high school, all at the same school, Lake Christian Academy, just right up the road.
Yeah.
Basically literally spent my whole life there.
Yeah.
And, grew up in a family. There's 6 of us. I'm a twin.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that. I'm a twin brother.
Yeah.
And, mom, dad, been married for like 45 years, something like that. Something crazy like that, but they've been together forever and just best parents in the world.
It's awesome, dude. I got a little sneak peek into you. Obviously, I came and saw you speak, which I thought was super cool. There's a lot of stuff you said that I want to get into. But one thing that I'm very interested in is like who your father is, what it was like growing up around your dad.
Right.
And give us some insight to, first off, who your dad is, and then what's the relationship that you have your dad, and how has that kind of helped you moving forward in the stuff that you're doing now? Yeah,
my dad is my biggest role model. I mean, I don't know where I would be without him. I mean, literally and figuratively, he's the most amazing human being in the world.
Yeah.
He grew up just in Roy, Utah, just a plain old dude. Had worked dishwashing, did all kinds of different jobs, was an entrepreneur or owned his own business at the age of 18, which was a parts, like a auto parts store.
Yeah.
And he actually raced in the NHRA. So he had a drag race, a legitimate drag race car that he raced on, they call it Sundays, like at the NHRA, like knew all of these people and fell in love with the racing. And, grew up in a house. My grandpa was in the military, was active duty. And then he went and worked for the government and did a bunch of stuff, was like one of the main engineers in the Minuteman rocket back in the day and just did some really cool things.
Yeah.
We kind of later found out. And so my dad always wanted, so he lived in Roy and he knew he always wanted to be on the bench. The bench is where everybody was at. And my grandpa was always like, hey man, you got to work for the government. It's the best secure. Get your pension, retirement, whatever. And my dad was like, no, I don't really want to do that. And so that's why he kind of became an entrepreneur at an early age. And so he did that for a really long time, and then he fell in love, or he got introduced to a company called Amway. And Amway, obviously, everybody knows that. You're going to give me crap for it, but that they are still to this day the largest network marketing company in the world.
Yep.
That I believe was in 1982.
Okay.
My dad got introduced to that. Before that, he was just he worked at different like a marine store. He was in the automotive. He got recruited, I guess, from the same ownership group, but from the marine store to the auto store. Fixed their parts department, made him one of the most successful parts departments in the state. And at that time when he was working at Peterson Motor Company back in the day in Riverdale, that's when he got introduced to Amway. And what my dad explains is like a guy came to him and gave him the opportunity, or he told him there's an opportunity to make $100,000 a year and not have a job. And my dad's whole goal in life was just to go camping.
Yeah.
I mean, everything my dad revolves around is the outdoors. He's the most outdoorsy person in the world. His dream was just to go camping. And he got really good at building the business, and Amway became arguably the largest person in the history of Amway.
So for those people that don't know what Amway is, go ahead and explain a little bit of detail.
It's a network marketing company. So, they got products, they sell products through distribution channels, and those distribution channels are people. You have an upline, downline, they're big, they got supplements. A lot of the companies, it's similar to your new skin, similar to your USANA, similar to There's a bunch of different companies, other Kiani. We're in Utah, right? There's a million different companies, but Amway is still the biggest. I wouldn't necessarily say the best, but they're just still the biggest company in the world. They're not necessarily the biggest in the United States, but they're really big outside the United States. And my dad had, they joined in 1982. They joined in 1982, and I only know that because my dad had a necklace with 82 1-carat diamonds on it. At one point in his life, was acted like a rapper, I guess. But they crushed it. And my dad just had this burning desire and a dream to just do something more with his life.
Yeah.
My dad became really good at public speaking, and I call him the Dream Reaper because he can pull a dream out of anybody, man. Like I've seen him move crowds of 30,000+ people in arenas, sobbing and bawling like you've never. Like I've been to a lot of public speaking events. Now, I've never seen anything like my dad speak.
Yeah.
He was speaking on stages with the largest people in the world. He kind of like was the person who made a lot of these people nowadays who they are.
Yeah.
And it's just been really cool to be a part of that and growing up in that, right? Like every single dinner table, my dad is all about motivation, but really self-development and execution. He's not just like, if you can dream it, you can do it and do nothing about it.
Yeah.
He's you can dream it, you can do it, but you got to take massive action to make it happen. And every dinner table growing up from literally, we were born in it, and still to this day, we still talk about it. It's a seminar every time we eat. Every time we do, it's situations, and he's seen everything, and he's done, he's helped millions of people.
Yeah.
We've kind of joked. He doesn't really know the number, but he thinks it's over 500 people he's helped become multimillionaires, and some of them billionaires.
Yeah. And
I've met those people recently, or got now that I'm older and can have a real conversation with them.
Yeah.
And just ask them the impact, because my dad had me when he was 40. So my dad's a little bit older than.
Yeah.
He's 69 right now, and so they kind of were semi-retiring when I got old enough to realize what mom and dad did, which is a bummer because I wish I could have watched them do what they do.
In his prime.
Yeah. Because I'm sure it would have been super exciting. Just the stories that I hear from these people are like, one guy I was with in Salt Lake City a year ago. He's a multi-billionaire, and he's like, dude, your dad is the only reason that I'm where I'm at right now. And it's not due to, he invested in me, but he invested like knowledge and the power of knowledge and self-development in me were completely changed and became who I am today. And I'm like, man, I really wish I could like figure that out, because my dad's the person that spanked the living crap out of me all the time. Like it's just, but it would have been cool to watch and
go back in time.
Like I watched them. We own Costa Vida. They kind of were in on the mother company over there. Some of their best friends in their Amway system. Two of their downline people.
Wow.
Founded it. And Fat Cat's Pizza Factory. All those, the shopping center, local to us next to Walmart, they all built that. The white buildings up on the side of the mountain. There's couple $100 million in real estate that my dad's built and done a lot of things besides Amway. He's built a little mini empire.
Does he talk much about like the early days of being in the parts store and growing that stuff?
Yeah.
And like the motivation behind any of that led into maybe possibly Amway? Because what's interesting, Jason, like we get everybody on the show.
Right.
I'm telling you, every person on the show is successful because somebody inside their inner circle gave them an idea or gave them an opportunity where, like your father, was working at the parts store, got an opportunity, said yes, didn't really think much of it, but took the opportunity, took the leap because he thought hunting or being in the outdoors or camping was life. Right. That's what he wanted to do.
Right.
But then he took that experience, which it sounds like from the parts store, he was always really already good at multiplying or growing a business or helping people, around him sell.
Right.
And took that to Amway and then just
blew it up. I kind of talk about it like a lot of time when I speak is like your defining moment. Like most people, like you're just saying right now, is people, they can go back to like a pinpoint in time where they made the decision to go one way or another.
Yep.
My dad calls it a fork in the road. You're sitting there and you can take one way or another way, but you're going to, go all in of the direction that you're going to go. And you can kind of go back to where this gentleman, he was working at the marine store, and this guy would come in any day of the week, all the time, regular customer, beautiful big boat, always buying a new boat and this and that, always buying the accessories. And my dad was like, what do you do? And he's like, I own a few businesses. And my dad tells me what business, I can't remember right now, but my dad's like, I want to own one of those. Like I want to do what you do, because you're coming in at 2:00 on a Tuesday, buying stuff from me all the time. And you're always talking about going to Lake Powell, and you're always talking about going up to the reservoir up here. Like you're free. And he actually hired my dad, and my dad was actually going to move somewhere up north in the Northwest and work for him of do what he did. And then that deal kind of ended up falling apart. And like a couple weeks later, he got introduced to Amway. And so everything kind of happens for a reason, but that gentleman started that burning desire to want to scale it, to do something. He always had that entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to have that, but then that's where he fell in love with like true freedom. And that's what he chased. He's still chasing this day.
And don't you kind of feel like what's interesting with this subject is a lot of times when people think of entrepreneurship, becoming a multimillionaire, it's just a time suck.
Right.
Like you can't go camping. You can't go to Lake Powell. You can't do all the fun stuff.
Right.
Right. Because you're growing something and you got to put your time and your focus on this. So it doesn't allow us to have enough time to go do something.
Right.
What I love about kind of your dad's vision, and I heard you talk about this a lot, is I work to basically play. Right. I travel X amount of days out of the year. That's what me and my wife enjoy. We jump on the jet and go somewhere. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what you care about in life, but building the business is also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, probably for you, the RV business is a game at this point.
Right.
And the game is fun to play.
Exactly.
It's not showing up to work.
Exactly.
And a lot of people have, I think, Jason, I would say the majority of people in life don't understand that.
Right.
Once work becomes a game, it becomes fun, which then allows you the freedom.
Right.
But when work is not a game and it's not fun, then you don't have the freedom because you're basically a slave to whatever you're doing.
100% agree. I mean, I'm obsessed with the RV industry to the point that I wake up every single day. I'm so excited to go to work and so excited to work with the people I work with, because it is a game, and it's how good can we get at this game. And I love when we mess up because it exposes some inconsistencies or some issues in the game. Right. Yeah. And like in that point, and that's almost like how you can get your definition of success, is when you kind of find that moment or one, an aspect of success is when you're able to love what you do so passionately, you cannot wake up every single day and do it. Correct. That we are hopping out of bed ecstatic to issues, to solve problems. And that's become the RV industry and a lot of what I do now. I mean, my growing up, my dad always talked about trading time for money, and the one asset and the one thing you can never get back is time. Correct. And we can spend all the money, you can lose all the money, but you can never get back that time. And I also had an example of very extreme, and this is why maybe I am who I am and why I do what I do, because my mom and dad were very extreme. And I talk a lot about our childhood, and it's great, and I am super thankful, but it was probably one of the toughest childhoods a person can go through.
And I guess explain that to us, right? Because like what you were saying is, hey, my dad was 40 when I had us, right, which means he already had a ton of money. Yeah. Which means you were already filthy rich.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was born.
Which is not the normal life. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I guess kind of dive into it. Explain or expound, I guess, on what you're saying here.
So my mom and dad always made it a point that our money is our money. You're with us, we're not with you. You're not picking when we're going to eat. We're picking where you go eat. And they would choose what we wanted, what we ate, because the cheapest thing on the menu. They would order it for us. Could never have anything but water. And we'd fly a jet around and eat McDonald's because mom and dad didn't want to spend money on food. Still to this day, do not spend any money on food.
Parents don't spend money on food.
Absolutely no money on food.
I'm like the complete opposite.
And maybe that's why I am a little bit.
You love food,
but they go crazy when they're buying the Moroccan beef appetizer at Twigs. I mean, they're like, man, we're spending so much money. It's $10 or $15, whatever it is.
That's
and I'm like,
hilarious.
You guys are so different than me. But it's very, very extreme. Like mom, to the point that if you wanted a candy bar at Walmart, sure, that's cool. My mom and dad had a check register of all the money we earned. They didn't believe in chores. We literally had a time clock. We would punch in, punch out, and we would write the jobs down, and my mom and dad would put a value on the job and either pay us per job or pay us per hour. They would add that all up in a check register, and we had our check registers. My mom had them in her purse. Hey, mom, I want a candy bar. Cool. Boom. Open up the check register, $1 off of your money, because it's technically your money. And it was all tied to our bank accounts.
Bro,
it's intense.
My mind,
dude. And we still have that time clock. It's like a relic in our family of hey, I need you to go pull the weeds, go punch in, punch out. It was not, hey, I'm going to give you $30 for the weeds. It was, hey, I'm going to give you $2 an hour. There's a little golf course up here when I was younger called Golf City. You know, if you remember that back, you know, now there's a bunch of homes on it. That was $7 to golf 9 holes to walk it. We would have to work about 5 to 6 hours pulling weeds to be able to go golf $7 and earn enough money. It wasn't just hey, we'll give you the money and you can go golfing. We had the worst golf clubs I've ever seen in my life. We had everything. What my mom and dad didn't have a passion for, they did not really like let us have that passion. That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. They just didn't believe in it.
They like, we hate golfing. Why were we going to buy you golf clubs?
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult. My first family vacation that did not have to do with Amway or any business was when I was in 9th grade. And it was so weird. We almost came home because we didn't know how to act, that we had that be together. I mean, I can tell you I've been to Hawaii and the Grand Wailea and the most beautiful suites in the world 20 plus times. Never saw my mom and dad one time when we were in Hawaii. We would land, know that they were at the resort, and you hang around just by ourselves. My grandparents would often meet us there, and sometimes not. Maybe when we were older, we would bounce out of there. Mom and dad would fly their jet. We didn't earn a seat on the plane. We would fly commercial. That was for their friends and their business partners.
So what's like looking back on this now? Like, what is your feeling towards your parents?
You know,
like, do you appreciate it because you're like, man, we learned a lot from it, and I understand it, or are you like, man, we could have had so many more memories, because they had the money to actually do that, and you know what I'm saying? And I guess my other question on that too is, do you feel bad that they didn't believe in what you enjoyed doing, and it was more on what they wanted out of you?
You know, I don't know, because I don't know anything different. You know, I've never and I will say they supported us in a lot of different ways. Like, you know, we loved basketball, so we put a half court basketball court with the real NBA floor that was lifted and real NCAA regulation hoops in our house.
Yep.
And we had a full-time trainer coming in and doing all this cool stuff with us. So I mean, things that they had passion for. You know, my dad's a big basketball fan.
Yeah. So he loved that.
Yeah,
so he thought that, like, I'll spend money on that.
Coolest thing in the world, right?
Yeah.
And but it's hard to say. Like, I'm super grateful because it's definitely made me realize the value of a dollar. Yeah. And where that dollar is going, and is the dollar coming back? Like, my mom's whole thing about food is it's never coming back.
Yeah.
Like, you spend all this money on food, it's never coming back. And my dad's a little too extreme in my eyes. You know, now he's getting a little bit older. He's maybe gotten a little bit looser.
Yeah.
Because now he's like, dude, I might have 15 years left. I don't know. He's like, I'm just going to go live my life. But still, he's like, oh, I can't spend this money, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And I'm like, man, like, you have so much money that you'll never be able to outspend it, and you're over here like sweating at night knowing that you're buying a $40,000 razor. It's kind of like, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, because like, I'm so much different. And
don't you think a lot of that though is like the way his parents raised him?
Probably, you know, like we actually haven't got too much into that, how my dad, like that whole family dynamic.
Yeah.
But I mean, my grandpa, until the day he died, was like the coolest dude in the world, and they had a great relationship.
Yeah, because like I remember, like my dad, like my dad grew up on a farm. My dad worked all through high school. Like there was no extra money.
Right.
It's like if he wanted something, he worked, he bought it.
Yeah, and that's similar. Yeah.
And I just remember my parents always being like, well, as long as you're playing sports through high school, football, basketball, and baseball, like you don't have time to work, so we'll support you. Like we want you to have a better life than we always had.
Yeah.
And they always talk about that, right?
Right.
And I remember coming home off the LDS mission, and he was just like, hey, dude, it's time to go to college.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I don't want to go to college. Like, I hate that. And it like blew his mind that I didn't want to go to college.
Right.
But that was his way out of being a farmer.
Right.
That was his only way out. And then basically growing the corporate ladder, right? And becoming somebody. And so he couldn't believe that, like, he's like, dude, I just worked my butt off to get out of this situation, to give our family a better life.
Right.
And why wouldn't you do something that's proven?
Right.
Right. And so I went completely against really what he did to his dad too.
Right.
Which, you know, I'm sure his dad was excited that his son was going to college.
Right.
But looking back on it, that's what I always realized with my dad, because we've had multiple conversations now.
Right.
That I'm in my 30s. But when I was in my 20s, like, dude, talk about an awkward time in life from 22 to 24, 25 years old. where it's like you have to prove to your dad that you made the right decision.
Yeah.
Because he's looking at you like, dude, you're an idiot for not going to college.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think you're going to do with life?
For sure. And like my dad was, it's funny because we grew up so entrepreneurial. My dad's like, you are like, and he never, I mean, I went to a semester of college, got straight A's, perfect. I mean,
you're better
that's
than
just,
me.
that's just my personality.
Yeah.
Is everything has to be like, I'm all in everything. Like I'm so
Which probably
extreme.
comes a lot of it from your dad.
Yeah, I mean, my dad is very extreme. I mean, when he's all in, he's all in. Like if he's gonna buy a razor, it's gonna be the craziest razor you've ever seen in your entire life. Like he's gonna mod it, outfit it, do all kinds of crazy stuff with it, and it's just that's just how kind of we grew up. But I'm super grateful for everything he's done and taught us. I now I'm kind of not really the opposite, but I'm very similar. But I'm like, man, like, I'm going to spend every single waking moment of my life how to make money instead of how to save it.
Yeah.
I got family members that just wake up, how can I save $1? And I'm like, how can I spend $1 to make 100? Like, or make 2 or make 3.
Yeah.
Or, I'm more in creation mode. And, it was actually just recent, like, to be honest with you, like, I haven't really told anybody this. I took my dad to Indiana. I'm on our jet, and it was kind of a cool experience for me because my dad, we did fly on their jet a couple times, or I'm sure, more than I'm thinking, but I remember a couple of times. But it was cool to be able to take my dad on our jet and be able to, hey, I'm paying you this time. Like, you just, like one of my love language is giving gifts, and I just wanted to like do this cool thing, and took my dad to Indiana to one of our RV shows.
Yeah.
And on our way back, him and I just had a deep conversation that was like, dude, we are just completely different right now because he was a little bit tied into the dealerships, and he was always battling me and everything. And he's super disconnected, and I'm in the trenches, and we're disagreeing, and it was kind of ruining our family dynamic. And I had a really strong conversation. It was, Dad, I don't want you in my business life anymore. You're not anywhere where I want to be right now.
Yeah. And
that was a conversation at a restaurant. And then a couple of days later, we flew on the plane, and he said he couldn't sleep for those couple of days and trying to figure out what I was meaning. And my dad's in save mode because he's almost 70 years old. He just wants to go literally camping. And he bought an RV, bought a razor, and they're down on Mesquite and doing fun things at the City of Rocks. I mean, they're all over the Western United States just camping because that's still his dream after all of these years. And I'm like, and he's like, I was 30 years ago when I had you, I was in creation mode. I was, how can I create things and how can I be all in and go and do all these fun projects? And we started kind of both sobbing on the airplane, and he's like, I'm been holding you back, and I got to get out of your way. And so, we're in that process of making sure he's completely done and taken care of and out of everything. Yeah. And I always wanted him a part of things because I wanted him there. And
he's good at what he does.
Yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he's one of the most brilliant business minds I've ever been around. I mean, he's literally like flourished economies because of what he's been able to do. And he still will hold a board role, but he's like, I don't even want to do that. I'm like, Dad, I'm begging him, please, I'll pay you whatever, like, whatever you want to do. And he's like, I just want to go travel. So if you can book your, board meetings when I can do my thing. But he doesn't even want to use I'm like, dude, use the plane, do whatever you want to do. He does have his own plane, but it's a charter plane. It's it's always gone. And he's never flown on it. And I'm like, dude, use the freaking plane one day. And he was like, no, I can't do it because it's chartered and it's this and that. And I'm like, even now, like, he has all this money. He just wants to go in his motorhome and just travel, which is awesome. Which is super cool. Like, my dad is his whole MO is, us growing up is be the richest person no one's ever heard of. Now, in today's day and age of social media, that doesn't really...
Yeah, good luck.
And like, now it's kind of not really sad to say, but it's just an important thing in any business or a individual. Like, you have to have like that resume of social media almost. Yeah. In his world, that's totally different. I mean, he's 70, right? I mean, he grew up... I mean, literally, my mom and dad built hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars. It's hard to say how big it was because there was no internet.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they built that business with no cell phones, no internet. I mean, I remember being we have a big tour bus, big 45-foot Prevost coach, and, binoculars looking at like exits on a road atlas, on a Rand McNally or whatever called road atlas. Yep. And my mom looking and saying, okay, that's exit, 430 or whatever coming up in a mile. You got to get in the right lane. That's how they navigated. But they built a massive business that would sell out arenas. I mean, my mom and dad still hold the world record for the largest business meeting, and they sold out the Georgia Dome. and there was people waiting outside of the Georgia. The Georgia home only almost holds 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And they sold that out for 3 days in a row.
Really?
Yeah. And like, that's the power my dad had to bring people together. I mean, it was incredible. And, you know, but they built it with, I mean, they did a lot of hard work, and maybe that's why my dad is how he is because it was so difficult for him.
Yeah.
And he did not waste 10 minutes in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, he can go, for my mom and dad to be gone 3 or 4 months at a time wasn't abnormal. It was more abnormal for them to be home than it was for them to be gone. When they were home, we were like,
don't know what
hey,
to
you're
do.
home. I mean, and it sucked because they didn't love telling us that they were going to be gone for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And so we'd wake up to a sticky note that said, hey, we'll be back in May. We'll be back in February. We'll be back.
So who'd watch out? Were you guys just old enough to take care of yourselves, or just older siblings?
Yeah, we did have like grandparents. We tried to live in nannies. That never worked. And when my sister got old enough, she just watched us. And then when me and my brother were the babies of the family, my brother and I, my twin brother and I, and when we were a little bit older, they pretty much were home.
Yeah.
Most of the time because they were kind of retired. In 2008, my mom and dad pretty much got out of everything.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just a freaking crazy
Wild,
childhood.
dude.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you for a little bit, right? So obviously you said once you graduated from Layton Christian,
Yep.
tried college for a really
Yeah, I
short
went to Weaver
stint.
State. I didn't quite make it to the was it the fall semester or whatever that is after you get out. I skipped that and I went to the spring semester, and then my intention was always go to school. I'm the biggest knowledge. I know so much useless things. It's incredible.
Really?
I read and research, and I mean, I could go sit you. I'm an aviation fanatic. We could go sit at the airport, and I can tell you every model, year, make of every single private airplane out there.
Really?
I can tell you why they are what they are, their thrust. I mean, it's just stupid, right? And so I'm just a research guy, and I love education. And my intention was always to stay in college and basically just get an MBA, just a general MBA. I know kind of a little bit of everything with business. My dad always says that he wishes he would have known accounting better, and so I was going to make sure that was all covered and all this good stuff. And I joined a network marketing company in February of 2013.
Okay.
And that was right in the middle of our semester that I was in college, and I ended up just blowing it up. I mean, I became one of the top earners of the company, the top earner in the company, the biggest rank in the company at 18. And mom and dad were already retired, completely gone. They had some ownership in the company, but it ended up being a mess with a non-compete with another company. It was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so they kind of exited, weren't even allowed to help us. And my dad is a pretty honorable guy. He would never even allow us to hold meetings at the house because he didn't want us to have to lie if we ever got sued on the stand.
Yeah.
And, when they asked those questions. And I just read a lot of books and got some mentors in my life to be able to help me. My brother was actually my upline, and we just blew it up. And it was awesome, dude. At 18 years old, making 6 figures and doing all these cool things and traveling around the country and speaking at different events at 18 years old was an incredible experience.
Yeah.
And I ended up just getting too busy to go back to college. I mean, I could not afford the time off from the network marketing company because that summer was a hustle summer.
Do you feel like a lot of that stuff at 18 though is going back to dinners and everything with your dad, your entire life?
Dude, we were all, and I say we because there's 4 of us, or me and my brother. We were built different, and I'm more like my dad than any of us. My 2 brothers work for me. My sister lives in Canada, owns a grocery store. We were very similar, but she's super successful up there. I am the creator, visionary, like my dad was. Yeah. I think everything goes back to those days.
Because I think where I get really jealous is like I didn't really figure out a coach, a mentor until honestly, dude, I was like 29.
Really.
So like I spent my whole 20s just doing my thing, making really, really, really good money, but not really understanding like, oh, we got to scale if we want to like really be rich.
Yeah.
And then, we got to invest, and we need CPAs, and we need financial advisors, and we need people to overlook at all of our stuff.
Yeah.
And then we've got to figure out, what are smart investments?
Right.
How do we do this? And then you get to an age where you have liabilities, and it's like, okay, well, how much risk can I actually take?
Right.
So where I think you're very fortunate is at a very young age, you had a really good mentor.
Right.
Or a really big person to help you understand vision or really sell.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's the hard thing about selling is, and your dad's probably a master at this, and you said it earlier, like, I know who I want to be around is when people say my love language is giving.
Right.
And the reason because of that is because it's like, well, dude, I know you're good at selling. But I also know the reason you're good at selling is because you care about the customer.
Right.
And you want to give the customer one of the best experiences ever.
Exactly.
Because you know that's going to lead to more money.
Right.
And a lot of people, when they sell a product, don't understand that.
Right.
It's in it for themselves. What are they getting out of this transaction?
Right.
And everything is so transactional that they don't understand that one person can compound to 5 or 10 other referrals.
Exactly.
And that's why the RV store blows up.
Right.
Because if you're not a giver, dude, you can't ever expand.
Right.
And you can't give your money. You can't invest. You don't understand the risk and reward.
Right.
And you probably hold on to too much, which means, you're in expansion mode right now. You probably would be like, dude, we're cool. We got 8 stores.
Right.
We're good, man. Life's great.
For sure.
I can jump on a jet whenever I want.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, it's the importance of a mentor and having that vision is super important. And I was always, and I don't know why I was, but like, it's funny because all 4 of us kids sat at the same dinner table, and I'm really the only one like I am. No. And I'm gifted in a lot of ways. I'm not gifted in a lot of ways. And but I was always the person at like 10 years old and 12 years old. Hey, Dad, teach me this. Hey, you're going to a board meeting. Can I go with you? And like, sure, you can come with me. Go sit. And I was just a fly on the wall in some board meetings in big multi-billion-dollar companies. He was on some board roles with and owned pieces of, and just asking him a million. I am the Mr. Ask a Million questions. Like my daughter's in that phase right now. She's 4, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's you. And then my wife is like, dude, that's you. Like you ask questions on everything. And because I'm just one of the knowledge, and I'm not that. I have no ego of trying to know everything. Yeah. Because you can't. I mean, you can fake your way through a lot of things, for a shorter period of time, but you'll get ousted super quick on some stuff that you don't know. I have no problem saying, hey, I don't know this. Explain this to me. Even Ryan right now, like a lot of real estate stuff, man, I have no clue what you just said. And I will be in a big meeting and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. And explain it to me. It doesn't really bother me.
I think people need to understand that too. Cause this is what I say, like being in charge of a ton of loan officers. Right. The number one thing that I tell a loan officer is like, don't lie to people and don't lie to a real estate agent. Cause a lot of times that real estate agent's going to give you a chance and they already know the answer. Right. And they're going to ask you a question to see if you know it. And if you lie, you're done. Right. You'll never work with them again in your entire life.
There's no problem with saying that's a great question. I don't know, but I'll find out.
Correct. And that should always be your response. It should be like, hey, dude, give me 5 minutes. Let me take a look into this. Let me call you back in 10, 15, 30 minutes. I just got to research this. Right. And nobody has a problem with that. But people always have a problem with, hey, you just lied to me, which means now I can't trust you ever again. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things again in selling a product that's huge that people have a hard time. Because when you're transactional, all you care about is what money you're going to make. Right. And you'll say whatever you got to make the money. Right. But when you understand customer service and kind of moving the company forward, it's like, hey, dude, well, let me look out for the best interests of you. I'm going to make sure I get you the right answer. Right. And then, oh, well, that's funny. Now that just led to a bunch of other referrals.
Especially in the RV industry, man. Like, I don't know if I'm sure a lot of your listeners have trailers, but the service is a disaster. Yeah. And that's an industry thing. That's not a dealership thing. Like, oftentimes people buy trailers and they'll tell me, oh, I have a trailer and I bought it from this, so-and-so dealership and the service this and service that. I'm like, well, dude, that's just the industry. Like, trust me, like most dealerships out there don't want to, they're not in the business of screwing people. They're in the business of making people happy, usually. And like we had a company-wide call today and I was like, hey, we're not in the RV business, guys. We're in the customer service business. Bingo. Any company can sell a trailer. Yep. If a customer wants it, customer will buy it. It's the service side that's lost, and that's where customer retention comes into.
When I was talking to one of your employees that's getting a loan from me right now, we were talking about all this. And I brought up like Elon Musk, because Elon Musk tweeted it like a couple months ago. He's like, oh, Tesla's now moving into like a NASCAR pit stop. So if you come in, like we're going to treat you really quick and we're going to get you out. Right. And so I was telling your employee that's running one of your stores, I was like, dude, that's all you got to do. You got to be the NASCAR pit stop. I said, nothing makes me more mad. Like, and I told him the story. I drive a 2020 GMC, a big truck, 3,500. We took it up to Montana on the way home from hunting. We were passing a big semi. And when we were passing the semi, like, I don't know what happened, but some vortex, like the wind vortex from the huge semi, there's nostrils on the hood. Mm-hmm. And it ripped the nostrils forward. Okay. So the wind ripped the nostrils forward and then flipped it over my truck. So me and my dad got out of my truck thinking like, man, something fell off the semi. It hit the front of the truck. Like, what the crap?
Right.
You know? And then we realized like, oh my gosh, it took this piece of plastic and this metal and ripped it forward and threw it over the truck. So, you know, this is in like first part of October, because every year we go up to the opener of the pheasant hunt up in Montana.
Right.
And so first part of October. So I call the dealership up. I'm like, hey, this is what happened to my hood. Just bought this truck from you not even 2 years ago. You know, they're like, oh, I'm sure it's under warranty. Just bring it in. I'm like, well, when can I bring it in? And they're like, oof, not till the end of November. And I'm like, you're joking. I'm like, so I got a $90,000 truck sitting in my garage with a broken hood and I can't get in for 2 months.
Right.
And they're like, sorry, man. Right.
Right.
Take the truck in. First call that I get back is like, hey, dude, you're out of warranty. And I'm like, I'm out of warranty. What are you talking about? I'm like, I always buy extended warranties. Like, I'm weird that way. And he's like, well, I can't find it. And of course, I don't have the paperwork. So there's my problem.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, when did the warranty end? He's like, 36,000 miles. I'm like, well, how many miles do I got on it? He's like, 37,1. And I'm like, dude, I couldn't get in for 2 months.
Right.
So I said, you don't know how long I've been driving the truck. And I said, I don't know either. So I'm like, I can't like tell you how many miles I had on it. And he's like, yeah, sorry, man, there's nothing we can do.
Wow.
So the first thing that I said to my wife, guess what it is, Jason?
What?
I'll never buy a truck from them again.
Right.
And it's not about like they did anything wrong. It's just from my experience with them is if I want an oil change, it takes 3 hours.
Right.
If I want my truck fixed, it takes 2 months.
Right.
And it's like, I just spent almost $90,000 with you on a vehicle.
Right.
Your most expensive vehicle in the parking lot.
Right.
And you don't care about me.
Right.
You're just like, get in line. And I understand it. It's like, you've got a lot of cars coming in and out. You've got a lot of things to be taken care of. But it's like, dude, if somebody just spent the most money on my highest selling product, I would make sure they get taken care of.
Yeah. And, you know, that is a battle that we fight all the time. And a lot of it's due to manufacturers.
And don't get me wrong, like the person that bought a $15,000 truck should also get the truck in there. Like, don't get me wrong, I should have presidential service.
Right.
But I think my point to this is like, I just can't believe in the car industry that they can't just hire a couple more employees. It's like, dude, if you're 2 months out, get a couple more staff people.
Well, especially with the automotive, man, it's just, I mean, for the RV industry, like, you know, one 45 to 60 days is kind of normal because of how long it takes to service an RV. It's it's not just roll it in, pop something in and roll it back out. And there's a lot of factors that go into it, but the manufacturers are, I mean, you would laugh at the manufacturer's parts. I mean, nothing is tied to a VIN number. Like the VIN number means nothing in the RV industry.
Yeah.
It's a picture you take and email someone and hopefully it's the right part.
See, and maybe this is the problem. Maybe we just don't know. Like as the consumer or the customer, maybe that's the explanation that I never get.
But it's communication and setting an expectation, right?
Correct.
Like I can't control the manufacturer, but what I can do is control your communication.
Yep.
And I can call you, and if you got these problems, I can say, okay, those 7 problems, or if you have a 30-item work order, okay, these 30 items are not going to keep you from camping. Go live your life. Go have a great time. Bring it back into the dealership in October if you're after hunting season. If you're a hunter, we're going to winterize it for you, and we'll start knocking off these lists. But let's get give me pictures. Hey, go shoot some pictures of different things. I'll get everything on order. And and this isn't a perfect this is like we actually kind of funny we're talking about this. Our company wide call today was talking about all these service initiatives we have. Because customer service, like it's not just, okay, we want more profitability in the service department. It's how can we take care of the customer better? And our whole thing is we don't want to be the biggest company. We want to be the best. Yeah. And how can we offer that to our customer base? Yeah. And it's the communication, and it's also the quality of work. RV technicians are very difficult because it's more of a handyman that has to know everything, electrical, woodworking, knowing all the plumbing parts. I mean, there's so much that goes into an RV technician. That's a difficult thing. So I have founded the Haugen RV University, and I'm the only one that I know of that's a fully accredited RV Technical Institute. Yeah. And so our governing body over all of our technicians that master certifies everybody is the RVTI. I'm fully RVTI certified. Yeah. So it's going to be a requirement for within 45 days of a technician working for us that they get level 1 certified. Yeah. No one's level 1 certified in the RV industry. And there's certain levels, and then you get master certified. And we have a training facility in Salt Lake City, and we're building a big building that's going to be Haugen University, and put more of sales training and more of like classroom style. Like I'm going big on the training because I want to take care of the customer. I want to be the brand that everybody knows that they're going to get the service that they expect. And I want to work with the manufacturers to make things better. I'm on Team RV, and I want, like our buddy Ryan always says, I want a win-win situation for everybody. Win-win or no deal, right? And so we have approached the manufacturers and say, you guys suck. How can we get better at this? And we have created the first, kind of cat out of the bag of the first initiatives with these manufacturers to make this process better for the end user. It's not necessarily for us. Yeah, it's great. It'll make our life easier, but we want to take care of the customer. And there's a problem in the RV industry specifically that I'm aware of, that people just don't care. Like, we've bought dealerships from people that discourage you from coming back from service because they don't want to take care of you. They don't care to take care. They want to take your money on the sale and not worry about you ever
transactional.
Again. The transactional. And we're more on the relationship side of things, where we want you to keep buying from us forever. And that's why, the gentleman that you're giving the loan to is literally the biggest customer service. He's the biggest goofball in the world, but he is the most customer service person I've ever seen. And he has people that have bought 8-9 trailers from him.
But that's what we're all looking for, is it's about the experience. It has like, at the end of the day, honestly, like, if there was a difference between the next truck I buy, like, here's what's funny about this whole situation is, like, I've put money on the next truck. Like, they know I want the 2024 that's coming out. So you're servicing my 2020. I got money down on the 2024. Right? Because you got to put a deposit down. And it's like, the deposit's nothing. But it's like, I would rather not care about the deposit anymore and go somewhere else. Because, and I guess that's what I'm saying is, like, because of what just happened, they're not even looking at what I'm going to buy, which is the next truck, which means I'm probably going to trade in the truck. I'm not going to spend the time to actually sell that truck. So they're going to win off the trade-in. They're going to sell that truck. They're going to sell me a truck. And, like, that little hood piece cost them $800. Oh, sorry, cost me $800. Right. And if they would have just taken care of me, and I'm not saying, like, hey, just because I was 1,000 miles out of warranty, that, like, they should have handled it.
No, I mean, in my eyes, there's a lot of prorated stuff.
But you just don't know, right? I wish what they would have done is, hey, dude, we can't get you until the end of November. What's your mileage right now? Oh, you're close enough. Like, hey, dude, we'll take care of you. Obviously, we love that you come here. We're excited to get your truck in and work on it because we're going to make money on it. And then odds are you're going to buy another truck from us.
Yeah, I mean, it happens with us. And then, like, we're like, a vehicle will come in for service. Or trailer, whatever you want to call it. Trailer will come in for service, and then their warranty expires in the middle of them, when it came in and the parts arrived. And so when you submit it, it looks like it's not out of warranty. We go to battle for that person and be like, no, look, date in service on the work order says X date. That's when everything should have been submitted. And that's our job, to go to battle for the customer, because we want to take care of the customer. And if it's a hard conversation with the customer, you have to have the hard conversation. And we try to figure out together how we can get through it together. Because our goal is to take care of you. And it's communication, right? Like, it's, hey, I can't get you in for 2 months. Here's what I can do. I can put you on our wait list. I know you're one of our good customers. I'm the first person that cancels. I'm going to call you. Hey, we already got that thing in, the vent piece in stock. Happens all the time. We're going to go ahead and, do this. I mean, it's just communication, right? Where there's an effort on one side to take care of you. That's all you care about. But it's like, hey, we can get you for 2 months. Have a good day. It's like, all right, like, you don't even care. But it's in not like, people are going to say, maybe people bought trailers from us, and, we're not perfect by any way or by any means, but we want to be the best. And I love being called out by people, because it says, where we can figure out some efficiency problems, or we can figure out some opportunities, and we see it as opportunities. I'm never going to get mad at people for doing things that they don't, lack of training, and they don't know what they don't know. And that's why we've gone so big on this Haugen University, because I want people to be the best selves and learn how to take care of the customer. And a lot of it starts with our culture, and that's where I've gotten so passionate about culture, and I've done so much culture coaching in different companies and different businesses. Awesome. I'm in the middle of actually getting certified on the personality psychology of DISC, and getting a full blown, certification, and I can actually, like, not legally, but, teach it by an accredited, company. Because I care so much about the culture in our company that, like, that's all that matters. Like, culture is everything, but culture bleeds into your customers, right? Like, how. Now I have a million questions for this culture of this dealership, and, but for us, like, we want to take care of our people so they take care of their customers. And it's just a big a big synergistic thing.
And I think a lot of this too is like, again, you hit it on the head. You're looking to always keep growing.
Right.
And part of the vision of growing is getting better at what you're doing, because
Right.
that's the only way you can continue to expand.
Right.
A lot of times people just don't care. And
Right.
so it's no fault to them over there. It's
And I
like,
buy dealerships from people that don't care every day.
Yeah, exactly.
I love
You
it.
know what I'm saying?
More people need to not care because it makes the
Yeah.
dealerships cheaper, because it's crazy that for instance, we bought a dealership that was doing $20 million in sales. With hardly any more people, we raised that dealership in 1 year to $55 million.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just
from
culture.
culture.
Yeah.
And it's just like a culture of, hey, we care. We're not going to run everybody dry where they're working, 7 days a week, 10 hours a day or 12 hours. I mean, it's just freaking insane. Like we care about quality of life for people. Hey, we're going to maybe hire some help. But we're going to basically, essentially double the size of those dealerships in 1 year because of the culture and how we treat people. And also, I'm not going to lie, we got some pretty good systems and processes.
But Jason, a lot of this too is like, I've been pumping this a lot over social, especially over the new year, because everybody set new goals, right? It's always funny to me that like we set goals, this whatever.
Right.
It's cool. I understand why, but it's like, I don't know why people just don't do it throughout the year.
Right.
That doesn't make sense in my mind.
Right.
But the biggest thing that I've been pumping right now is you're a byproduct of what you're surrounded by.
For sure.
And so when you said, hey, we took it from 20 to 50 million, it's like, well, yeah, I can see why. It's like what you're creating, that culture, that atmosphere, who you're hanging out with, what that environment looks like. That's why you're succeeding.
Yeah.
That's why your dad was successful. That's why you're going to be successful. And that's why a lot of people aren't successful.
Right.
Is because they're not surrounded in that culture or around those people that are highly motivated to continue to expand and grow.
Right. And your surrounding is very important. My dad always like, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang out with.
Bingo.
Right. And I'm not saying like, drop friends just because they're different social economic. I mean, I got great friends that I hang out with all the time, and they're some of my best friends in the world. But when you're in, like, I read a lot of Napoleon Hill, and I love those books. He talks a lot about the mastermind and getting together and masterminding and talking and getting around people and getting thoughts going and vision and just saying crazy ideas. I mean, that's when the magic happens in our company, at least. Yeah. My podcasts always talk about business is not a pyramid, it's a round table.
Yeah.
And I actually, in our new building, we're building our HQ, I'm making a boardroom that's a round table because I don't want anybody ahead of the table. We all have the same voice. Even Jason Haugen, the founder, CEO of the company, has the same exact voice as everybody else, because I need the input, because I have to base my decisions off of you guys. And I need that camaraderie between us of saying, hey, I don't like this or I don't like that, but you need those people surrounding you to be able to move forward. If you're surrounding people that have nothing to, like, just different, like, social economics or different thought processes, or don't support you or don't want to say anything or challenge you. Like, some of my best friends challenge me when I'm wrong. I want them to tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah.
My employees, I send out personal surveys all the time to people and say, how is Jason doing?
Yeah.
What is your expectation from Jason? I get challenged all the time. People rip me to shreds. Hey, I want that, because it's like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah, you don't realize it.
yeah,
sometimes.
there's some, like, I don't know, and you're kind of, I'm moving so fast, and I'm like gone all the time and doing this and doing that. People are like, hey, you used to do this for all the time. It meant a lot to me. And I'm like, man, I used to do that. And so then I got a point to do those things that I used to do, or put that in my daily work or whatever. But I'm surrounded by people and teaching that to people to challenge me and challenge you and to help you grow, because when I'm always in growth mode, and I don't like being stagnant. Even stagnant, I'm like, you're going backwards because you want to be in that growth mode. But it's the surrounding of people that you're with. Yep. And there's so many people, like, if you don't have a mentor or with like a group of people, there are so many groups of people in every industry where successful people generally like to help the newcomers or the newbies, right? Like, sometimes you got to pay for it, whatever. Like, I'm not going to get into that, but generally successful people, or people, above you, whatever you want to call it, want to help the newcomer or people be successful, because, my whole thing is everybody's got to eat.
Yep.
And I want my table the biggest table, and I want to help everybody. We're doing a lot of projects right now that I'm involving friends in, because I want my friends to be successful. I'm not a selfish guy. I grew up in a lot of money, so I almost don't care about money to a fault, because it doesn't really excite me.
Yeah.
I'm flying around on a plane, people think it's the coolest thing in the world. I grew up and it doesn't really bother me. I use it as a tool and accomplish the mission of work. Yeah. It's not just Jason's going to the Dior store. I have done a couple shopping sprees and whatever, but it's different. Like, I view things a little bit differently. Yeah. My vision is I just want to help people, and I want to help people grow, and I want to do cool things, and so it's just, I guess, it's a culture you create.
I heard this the other day, Jason, on social, and I think it's actually pretty cool because we've talked about school. You just talked about a round table.
Right.
Like this guy on social media, I don't even know who it was. I just heard it, and I was like, oh, it was kind of the aha moment of like, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's like our whole lives we go to school. Our whole lives we're taught you study by yourself. You take tests by yourself. And when you take a test, if you ask anybody what the answer is or if you ask for help, you fail automatically.
Right.
But in business, in order to be successful, is you've got to come together as a group and you got to collaborate.
Right.
And you got to give ideas and you got to build off each other and you got to move forward.
Right.
But for
that's powerful.
22, 23 years of life, you're taught and told to study by yourself, take a test by yourself, and you're in trouble if you ask any questions.
That's dude, thinking about that's kind of crazy because
so to shift your mindset, your mind, because a lot of times, like even in my industry, right? Like I'm a loan officer. It's like working with real estate agents. Agents are like, I really early in my career, this happened to me. A guy said to me, "I will never work with you because you work with X, and I don't want X to know what I'm doing." Right.
Right.
And what he's saying is, it's like, dude, there's no secret sauce here. Just because you advertise or do what you're doing doesn't mean this guy's going to go do it. Like everybody works and operates in their own way. You know what I'm saying? They all have their own skill set. So what's funny to me is like he's taking kind of that life, what he's been taught, which is like, dude, I'm going to do this. I built this by myself. I have an ego by myself. Like, I don't want anybody else to know what I'm doing. And it's like, dude, we all know what you're doing. Like, you just don't want to share ideas.
Right.
But if we would come together and talk about this, we can all grow as a big unit, and the odds are we're all going to make more money together.
Yeah, and it's growing the industry, right? And it's growing the faith that people have in everybody. Because when people have bad experiences with certain industries or certain things, they tend to shy away from it completely, and they try to go some other crazy route, right? Like, if it's an online lender or this or that, I mean, they're trying to just figure out how not to go to the scary lender or the scary realtor or whatever. And it's just, it helps everybody. I mean, it goes back to customer service. Like at the end of the day, like the industry's goal is to help that person get a loan or find a house, whatever. And it's crazy to me. Like in the RV industry, I don't know if you ever read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, but it is the most red ocean thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's funny because in Utah, we can't even get along enough to have an association meeting. I mean, there's an RV association. We have maybe one meeting a year, but that day there's like 4 separate sessions because some of the dealerships can't get together because they scream at each other. And I'm like sitting here like, dude, I don't know any of your back history. How can we get better together? I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of dollars in an account that we don't use because we can't agree on a single initiative or to do anything. And no one will execute. People cussing at each other at the RV shows, purposely blocking each other in so they can't get their units. I mean, it's hysterical to watch. But I come in like, hey, how can we work together? And so I'm going to the other people like, I don't care your history. Stop being a baby. Let's do this for each other. And then you go to other RV, associations in different states, and they're crying. I wouldn't be here with the other guy across the street. And I'm like, why can't we be like that? But it's just
Utah, bro.
It's a mindset. Yeah, it's Utah, and it's a mindset of people. Like, we've been doing this for the last 50 years, so we're going to keep doing it. And when you come in and you have, and I'm trying to surround myself like these are my peers, right? Like some of them have big dealerships, multi. Hundreds of millions of dollars, a couple $1 billion operations. And I'm like, how can we help each other? What can we do? And I'd love to pick your brain. I'm like, no, I'm not going to help you. I'm like, what? Like, my attitude is completely different because I'm like, I'm trying to help everybody. I get hit up all the time, especially when I was on Bradley's podcast and I said stuff about the RV dealerships. Man, I had 100 RV dealership owners reach out to me. That I'm picking up the phone. You should do this. You should do that. This is what we do. These are the vendors we use. Like, I'm just trying to help the industry because I care so much about the RV industry because I want people to have good experiences where maybe if they get a good experience with you in Texas and they move to Utah, they're going to come by from me maybe or somebody and keep RVing. Like, our goal is to keep people RVing because they're going to obviously I mean, RV cycle is about 4.5 years. They're going to keep buying RVs for the next 20, 30 years, which could mean 10 units, 8 units. I mean, that's my goal for them. And
the other thing too, dude, is you're building a brand. So you never know, like what you said on his podcast, helping those people out, what that does in a couple of years. Right. And you'll see obviously the fruits of the labor come down. We kind of skipped over this, dude. We need to back up a little bit. Because we went straight from like you being 18, being a big salesman, straight into a lot of RV stuff really quick. So talk to me about the transition of obviously being a big salesman at 18, 19 years old. Like, what did you do after that? How did we even get into RVs? What did that even take to get into it, and why?
So I was in the network marketing company from my total career in network marketing was 2013 to 2019.
Yeah.
End of 2019, I completely walked away from it. Basically, as of December 31st, 2019, I was done. I left commissions in my portal.
Yeah. Why?
I just wanted to get so. In 2000, was it like 2017? We got sold. Our company we were in, that I was in for say 5 years, I guess that would be, or 4 years, whatever that was, 4 years, got sold. It kind of changed the vibe of everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't love the way that the direction was going, but I love the people I was with. I mean, I still actually talk to that CEO. I still work with them. I love the dude to death. I just didn't love the dynamic of everything going on. And he had a partner that was kind of, interesting guy. And then in 2018, we got sold again. Right. And so, in 2018 we got sold. In 2019 we got sold. And when we got the second sale, I was like, I'm done. I can't. I mean, they flew me out to their big old place in San Diego and schmoozed me and did all this stuff and gave me a bunch of free product and all that. And I kept asking them the detailed questions because I grew up in this. I know a lot of stuff, and they think I'm just some young, dumb, stupid person.
Yep.
And all these. And I'm like, I actually called her. She was my girlfriend. We just kind of started dating, but now she's my wife. I'm like, I'm out. Like, she actually never saw me ever build any network marketing thing. I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. And prior to that, because we kind of saw the writing on the wall, in 2017, when that company was kind of going under and things were changing, that we didn't really know. Even though I was on the board, I didn't know a lot of stuff that was going on at corporate. They hid a lot of that stuff from us, and they actually were stealing and kind of embezzling money out of the company, which is a long story. But I actually, when my commission plan changed, I went from making six figures to zero.
Yeah.
And I had this big downline, this big expectations. I was on a speaking circuit, and I kind of had fallen more in love with the self-development and speaking side of the business and kind of never recruited anybody. I was the worst recruiter in the world, and still to this day am. And I actually, in 2017, it was kind of in maybe October of 2017, I looked at, this is my ex-wife, but she was then my wife. I looked at, we just lost everything.
Yeah.
And we have a baby on the way, or had been trying to have a baby, and we have a house. We just got married, back in 2016, and life is going to be different now. I don't know what to do. I have no education. Yeah. I have no idea what we're going to do. Called my dad. He's like, dude, I don't know, man. Like, maybe we can go buy some car washes together. You can run them and this and that and the other. So I ended up having to make the hardest phone call of my entire life. Was to my best friend. He owns a construction company in Ogden, Utah, a cabinet company. And so I was like, dude, I'll come sweep floors, man. I just got to work. You got to pay me, man. I need a job. Like today, like I had spent a lot of money. Network marketing, it takes a lot of money to make a lot of money, and you end up almost zero at the end. And I was sweeping floors, man, for $20 an hour. I mean, I was kind of his handyman for $20 an hour, and he didn't need me, but he was like, dude, you're my best friend, man. I got to help you out. And I started to build cabinets in the cabinet shop through the middle of the night, wake up in the morning, or kind of go home, sleep for a little bit, build the network marketing business still, because the expectation was Jason's still the highest rank in the company. He's got all these, this new company bought us. Jason's going to crush it for you guys, and all his expectations, but my income was nothing. And it was really hard for me to go sell a dream, quote unquote, or sell all this stuff to people when I didn't believe in it. I'm broke. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't even want to go try. I can't. I mean, people were like, hey, I felt bad because I started to act bougie. Like, hey, you have to pay for my flights and you book them. I'm not going to book them. I couldn't pay. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't pay. Like, I throwing everything on a credit card, and it was just rob Peter to pay Paul. And we had a car payment and a house payment, and just trying to survive. Yep. And I actually fell in love. I'm talking about extreme earlier. I fell in love with the cabinet business, man. I was the best freaking cabinet builder. I could build an entire house, not even just the kitchen, a house full of cabinets in one night. Really? And have the installers wake, 7 a.m. The installers would roll up with the box. I would saran wrap them, load them in the box truck with a forklift, and the installers would come in, grab the box truck, boom, out, installing them. Yeah. And then I would do the network marketing thing, sleep, here and there, back to building cabinets. Then I got good at designing the kitchens. I can go in and design a full kitchen. I got good at all the design work I was a freaking beast. I'm not going to lie. And then, my last project was in end of 2017. My dad actually approached me and said, hey, I found what we need to do. Is actually Troy, your guy. Yeah. He called my dad and was like, hey, we own an RV dealership in Salt Lake City, and we're going under. We're going to lose it, in the next couple months. And my dad had approached me and was like, hey, I have an opportunity for you to kind of go do this. We'll invest together, because I always wanted to work together. At the time, he did not know my financial situation. He did not know that I was losing everything. He did not know that I was working for this construction company. He had no idea about anything. I hid that from everybody.
Yeah.
And because I was in the public, not really public eye, but I was in this network marketing eye that I had to be.
Yeah, it's tough to go from like, hey, dude, you're making a ton of money to be humble to like.
I had a nice BMW. I was rolling to the cabinet shop in a BMW. I mean, it was paid off, luckily, but I was rolling to the cabinet shop in a BMW, and everybody's like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? And I'm like embarrassed. Yep. There's cabinet screws and stuff all in my car because I use it as a work car. Yep. And, I'd have people fly in and pick them up from the airport for the network marketing, and they're like, what's going on inside? It was just a disaster, man. Like I was so lost, and it was one of the hardest, most challenging times of my entire life. So my dad approached me and was like, hey, let's do this together. And I'm like, sweet. But I'm working in a construction company. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm losing everything. I can't afford to invest anymore. Like I had a little bit put away, but all you're going to get with me is sweat equity, because pretty much my chunk of change is gone. Yeah. And I had made some stupid investments and done some things with friends that just never worked out. And I had one project left. I was building about 100 units up in Logan, and I was the one building all of the units. They were 2.5 baths, a full kitchen, and I can build about 5 to 6 of those freaking units a day. And so I told my buddy, hey, I'll finish all these projects for you. You can pay me out and finish. And that's when we closed on the dealership January 18th, 2013. Yep. And 2018, sorry. January 18th, 2018. And I had left the construction, went right into selling, and I needed that income. My dad actually made me. He's like, hey, like I'm not going to invest in you until you do everything there. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? He's like, you need to start selling. Everything runs through sales. Okay, cool. I sold and had a full living off of sales. It wasn't great. I'm not the greatest salesman, but what I am good at is just selling like dream and the idea of camping and doing all these things. Yep. And then I love people, but I fell in love with the RV industry, and there were so many holes in it and different ways that I could improve it that I went all into the RV industry and surrounded myself with people that were really good at it. I went to every networking event, every show, everything that I possibly could be around other people that knew how to do this. And my dad left shortly after and kind of just exited and was like, hey, you're killing it, dude. Just do you. But right before he left, we had a big barbecue at his big house up here in the big pavilion with every employee that we had, all 25 of us, and their significant others. And I was supposed to be the general manager, and everybody was supposed to know Jason's taking over. Right when my dad was going to make that announcement to everybody, he goes, hey, I just want to introduce you guys. Hey, like we didn't have a general manager position. Yeah. And he's like, we're going to have a general manager. And then he announced the general manager, and it was not me. Yeah. And I'm like, it's one of those take a step, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the heck just happened? And it hit me. I'm like, what the heck, dude? And then I'm like, hey, like if I didn't deserve it, I didn't deserve it. Like I didn't have any resentment, but I go to my dad, like, hey, what happened? Like 30 minutes ago, we were just talking about like the announcement coming, and he's like, I just didn't have a good feeling. You're not ready yet. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I don't think general manager is your personality. You're going to be the operations manager. In hindsight, that was the best thing for me, because I got to learn the systems and really focus on how to build the company rather than dealing with customers and monotonous stuff of payroll and doing stuff like that, which doesn't really excite me. He knew the vision. I didn't. I was kind of like, hey man, the general manager is the big wig at the dealership. Like I'm taking it over and doing all these things. What the heck, dude? And he's like, no, I just want you to be the operations manager. And that was in 2018. And so I was the operations manager from 18 to 19 and just really focused on all the operations of all the business, studying the accounting, studying everything, how everything worked. I'd literally stand out on the shop and have a stopwatch or, on my phone calculating everything, how many steps people are I got into the weeds of the operations side of everything, which kind of set me up for being the CEO and owner of everything else. And so in 2020, we bought, we were able to self-fund ourselves and buy the next dealerships. And I became, made myself the CEO and I kind of founded the Haugen RV group at that moment. But it was hard lessons, man. It sucked. My dad, I was like, I'm not ready. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, I'm doing all this stuff. And, the dealership was in shambles in 6 months, man. I turned that thing around. And we ended up making a profit that year, which they had never made a profit. And then, made another profit in 2019. And we've all been profitable since. But it's just those hard times when you kind of realize, like, I'm I'm the big shot, and then all of a sudden you get like a check, and it's like, check yourself first.
Yeah.
But it was a super blessing in disguise because I got to learn everything, which set me up for being the CEO. Now I'm the visionary. I have an operations manager, which was that general manager. Yeah. Now he's the operations manager. He's the chief operations officer of our company, the best in the world. I will hands down one of the best in the world. And it's kind of awesome because when we started, acquiring dealerships, I went to him like, dude, you're my partner, man. I maybe not financially, but I'm not going to do this without you. But I don't know the business well enough to be able to be the operations manager. So we kind of flipped roles, and that's when I made myself the CEO because I'm more of the visionary and how to do things and the 30,000 foot view and the outside vendors. Yep. He's the in the weeds guy, and he will tell you, I will never do what Jason does.
Yeah.
He loves the weeds, and he's freaking good at it. And it's just.
But don't you kind of feel though, Jason, like who would you rather listen to? Somebody in the weeds or somebody that's not in the weeds?
Not in the weeds.
And tell me why.
For me, I don't know. Like I'm such a visionary and such a big picture guy. I think that's who I relate with the best.
Yeah.
And I love him in the weeds, and he knows exactly like I like his input because he's so deep in it and he knows what's going on.
There you go.
But like for me, I got like me working with, I got to be with a visionary guy.
Yep.
And I don't like being micromanaged, but with him, like he's so good. Like, and I trust him because he's in the weeds. And I trust him because he's been in the, he's a master certified technician. He's been in a dealership for like 20, 40 years.
Yep.
I think since he was 15 years old, and he's just crushing it. And, I'm like, this is the best role because you go basically out there, you figure out what everything needs, and me and him come back and we mastermind it. How can we create better? Yeah. And my whole thing is, what is my position of the company as CEO? But it's to serve the people and to set them up for success. And that's Matt as well, as he's there to set everybody up for success as best as possible by being there and being a support system.
Yeah. And the only reason that I asked that is like, I'm having a hard time with it right now, because I'm a big believer, and this goes way back for me.
Right.
Like what I've always disliked with people is when they talk, yet they haven't been in a sales position. Like I hate when management, and I don't know why this is me, but I hate when management talks about or telling people how to sell when they haven't sold in like 5 years.
Right.
And it's like, dude, you haven't been on the floor. You haven't sold anything. You don't know what the current market's really like. You're just getting feedback coming up to you.
Right.
And now you're telling me what to do.
Right.
Right. And I've always had a really hard time with this.
And I would too.
And so the reason like I've taken on this vice president role, and a lot of my role is like, hey, dude, I want you to still do home loans.
Right.
But I also need you to grow the whole state of Utah for me.
Right.
Right. And it's like, we've got 9 locations. We've almost got 20 loan officers in less than, in about an 8-month period.
Wow.
Right. And so we've grown pretty quick.
Right.
But it's also one of those things where I always want to stay in the weeds, because it's like, I want to know what's going on in the day-to-day in the real estate market, because that's the only way I can teach. That's the only way I can recruit. That's the only way I can get people to believe in what we're doing. And oh, by the way, I'm going to stay in the weeds because I'm going to outproduce all of you.
Right.
Why I travel and hire and build a company on top of it.
Right.
But it also stems back from years ago of people telling me what to do. And I'm like looking at them like, dude, you're not selling. You're not here with us every day.
That's a huge problem culturally, right?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally. And like, there's always, I call it like the disconnect between the field and the corporate or whatever you want to call it.
It's like when corporate shows up once a month or once a quarter, it's like, dude, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. But like with Matt, like he works with them every single day. And so they trust them and they know that. Yeah. With me, my role, they know, like, I'm not going to teach you how to sell. And I tell people all the time, like, hey, I'm not going to come in and tell you what to do because you know about it more than I do.
Correct.
And it starts with the top down, right? Like if I was the guy that had to be the know-it-all and be everything surrounded me and was about Jason and my last name's on the building because I have all the pride, it's a very different culture, right?
Yep.
But with me, when people ask me questions, I'm like, I don't know, what do you want to do? Like, you're the finance manager. What do you think it needs to be done? I've never sold finance in my life. I'm not afraid to tell you that. I don't know the answer. Go ask our finance trainer or go ask Matt, because Matt actually sometimes sells like in the when he at some shows and stuff. So it just setting that tone of either you're gonna be a micro, like, and I have a whole entire formula and a software program that I put people in and rate them and do all these things that through my consulting company that you go in and you rate everybody. I have them all rated through their KRAs and their job description and their culturally of where they're at, and it's knowing how to coach people and what to say and what to do and their hot buttons. And I work with personalities and I work with team building, all these things. And I actually plot map a team's personality in an unfavorable situation or a favorable situation. So if something bad or good happens, how you're going to react. And I think it's knowing that and knowing your people, or, people call it read the room. And if you got a high performance salesperson, you're telling him how to sell and do all this stuff, man, like that dude doesn't need that. All you do is support him, ask him how his family was. If you saw he went to the Rose Bowl,
there it is.
Hey man, how was the Rose Bowl? You good? Yeah, you good, man. If he starts to fail, you go, hey man, you start your numbers are sliding. What's going on? You all right? Yep. Because he was a high performer at one time, but it's the top trying to figure out how they can serve them best, not just dictating and being that, oh, we're going to do this, the sales process because this is what, I got sold by a vendor that I have no idea what that works. Like if we're going to have a vendor come in and teach some, I get everybody together, all the general managers, the finance managers, the sales managers, whoever it's going to affect, say, what do we want to do as a team? Do we want to go with these people or that people? Where do we want to go at the direction as a team? Because this is, at the end of the day, Jason's not using it. Your guys are using it. Yeah. I don't care how expensive it is. If you're going to say you're going to use one that's really expensive and you're not going to use one that's super cheap, but I can save maybe $100,000 a year, use the one that's $100,000 more because you're going to use it. And that's me investing in you and creating that culture that my job is to serve you and set you up for success. Now, can everybody have everything that they ever want and dream of? No. I mean, there's got to be, within reason, but it's the decision that I have made to serve every single person. Everybody has a voice. Like I don't care if you're the janitor. If you see something, say, like my whole thing is stupid. If you see something, say something, because I don't know what I don't know. Yep. But my expectation for people is I can't tell them to do something if I don't know how to do it. But I can say, hey, we need a better sales process. How can we figure this out together? Or, hey, we haven't been able to do this very well, or we haven't been able to do that very well. I need you guys to make action plans to figure this out. But I'm with you. I hate when people are like, it's a huge thing in network marketing. That was my biggest pet peeve and a real reason why I'm super soured is you have a bunch of people that are making a ton of money because there's an astronomical amount of markup on network marketing products that are barking at you how to build your business and dictating that through compensation plans. That they have no idea what it takes to ever build a business. And that's why I kind of got out of the industry. Was the company that we got bought, I'm like, you guys have no freaking clue on how to do what I do every single day. I'm out. And so I vowed to this day to any single person that, like, I might not know how to work on an RV, which I probably could because I'm pretty handy and built a lot of things in my life. But hey, how can I set you up for success and what do you need? Let's do this together. Yeah. You tell me what you need. And like even today on the call, hey, I'm going to send you all out a survey. I need you to tell me what you need to make yourself better. I need you to do 3 things. I need you to write down 3 things that help yourself and your department, please. And I need you to write one thing that you would like me to improve our culture, because I need to know how to serve you best at your, I don't even want to say level because I hate having levels, but like at where you're at in our company. Yep. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. We're going to do it together. Yep. But I obviously have to have that vision and say, okay, we need this or need that. And usually it's, hey, Matt, we need to execute this way. And it's putting the credibility on Matt. Like that's a huge issue that I have with a lot of people is they want to be like, most of the ideas that people kind of come out with in our company is a lot of either me or like kind of us coming out, as a team. It's all about them. It's all about, hey, Matt wants you to do this. Hey, Matt, I need you to take the credit. I need you to tell everybody we're going to do it this way, because I don't care. What my goal is to get all those people on his team, the credibility, enough credibility that Matt is the man to them. Bingo. Where they don't need to be like, oh, well, Jason, can I call Jason? They know that Matt has all the answers.
And I think that's the problem is the majority of companies don't operate like that.
No.
The majority of companies are, everybody's so worried about the dollars coming up that they're going to dictate what's going on down below.
But if you take care down below, the more money will start flowing up. Like if you take your eye off of so much, like, and that's where we got before is how can we save? How can we save? How can we save? Now, like people are going to take this the wrong way. Like obviously you have to look at the bottom line of financial statements and make sure like all of our ratios are perfectly fine. But you have to, if there's an issue places, you have to figure out why there's an issue. Is it efficiencies? Is it process? Sometimes it just comes down to people. Like if they feel, I get it, and I know I'm taking a lot of your time, and I know
you're good, bro.
But like I kind of think about it as a sport. I love sports, and I'm a big, and I think of my companies, all the different things we have. Is I'm basically the GM or maybe the coach. We got to figure, I'm here to coach people. Yep. I tell people, hey, be a coach. Yep. You're don't be the coach that's going to bench everybody because they're doing wrong. Be a coach. And if growing up, I had some coaches that were horrible. And I think back to it now after I'm studying all of this, that I played for me and I played for my stats, and I could not care. I did not care if we won because I won. I did not care about him. Right.
Correct.
And I was trying to pat my stats to do what I wanted to do. But I had some coaches that I loved, and I cared more about winning for him or her than I cared about, and people surrounding, my teammates, than I cared about myself. So maybe you make the extra pass.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't make it all about you. And that's how I create, I think of my team is like, I want to be the person that everybody wants to fight for because they want to do it for themselves.
There you go.
They want to do it for their brothers and sisters on their right and their left, and then for me, and then for the shield, because every logo we have in our company, and there's 4 different logos, or I guess 5 because the corporate logo is all a shield, and we all represented by that shield, and we're uniform. We're one company through that shield. We're going to brand and do some things, and we'll make some announcements later on some stuff we were talking about earlier. But I want to unify everybody because I want people to do things for themselves. And want to do that. So I tell people, the moment that you start doing stuff because you think you have to for me, even vendors, like at the moment that you feel like you have to do business with me, cancel me. The moment you feel like that you have to do it just because to please me, and maybe that, but like do stuff because you want to do for the family, for, one of our values, and we have culture cards, which everybody kind of makes fun of me for, or not really, it gives me a little bit of crap for, but every single person in our company has a little card. It looks like a credit card. I can show you after. It has all of our values and our mission statement on it because I want to give people a why to come to work.
Yeah.
Why are we doing what we do? And then you flip it over and it's all of our values. And it's like, these are the things we value. And we manage through those values. We don't do write-ups. We do cultural realignment meetings.
Yeah.
You violate trust. You violate being a family. You don't give a customer a good experience. Hey, man, come here. We're going to have a little meeting. I have a form made up. Violated experience. You didn't give this customer a good experience. You did this. Or maybe you didn't give him a good experience and you lied to him.
Love it.
What are 3 things you can do to gain the trust back with the customer? How can now, we're going to go clean slate. How can you give them a good experience right now? Yeah. I want you to call them. I want you to apologize. I want you to this and that. And we do it together because I'm coaching them. Yeah. Now, if we have these issues all the time, we're going to move in a different direction. And at that time, usually they know, hey, I'm not a good fit for your culture. Yep. And I make them sign culture statements and vision statements and value statements before they ever work for us. And I'll hold it up, man, you signed this. You said that you cared about this. Yeah. I've done a lot of things with our culture, and I get really passionate about it because the more, and like you're talking about earlier, like the more you care about people, like I got asked, by John Lee Dumas, he has a big, huge podcast called Entrepreneur on Fire. And he's like, what is the best advice you give someone? I said, just love your people. That doesn't, and I'm not talking about, don't get it confused of a winning culture versus everybody gets a trophy culture and you can never fire anybody. Yep. We have a winning culture, but everybody knows what the mission is because we have a mission, and we manage through that. Like I was talking, we do the realignment meetings, and every meeting we get together, every time 200 people get together in a company, they're required to card check each other, put the card away, say the mission statement from memory, say all the values from memory, and then start talking about, hey, what are 3 things that you've seen in our values? How have we, acted like a family? How have we gained some trust? Or how have we how have we done this or how have we done that? So we're talking about it all the time because that means more to me than anything. And, when we have bad culture or a bad apple or whatever you want to call it, you as a leader or as an owner of that business, you owe it to your other family members or other team members to get rid of that person, because it's just like this. And I'm sorry, I'm going on this rant. It would be like going to the hospital and saying, hey, ma'am, I just have a quick question. Hey, what's up? Hey, I just wondering if you had anything that I want to inject some cancer in my body. I just wondering, like, you have any cancer? I mean, they look at you like, what the frick are you talking about? Yeah. But we do that to our businesses every single day, or our teams every single day. Correct. When you have a person like that on your team, you are telling, and even if it's so, for instance, we had a person that was on our team that was probably one of the worst human beings I've ever seen treat other human beings. Yeah. But he was one of the best at what he did. Yeah. Well, if I didn't I redeployed him out in the workforce. He's got another job now, so he's all taken care of. But if I didn't address that or let him go or whatever I did, I'm setting the tone to every single employee that I care more about money and more about the bottom line than I do about them. So what does that show them? Just like that, talking about that coach earlier, that I care more about. I hated coaches that played the politics and all that stuff. Yep. I want to set the tone that I care more about you and your personal self than I do care about the dollar. Now, are we going to lose money? Yeah, we probably will lose money. It could cost us $1 million a year. Hey, we got to get better to do whatever. And that, I mean, it's so important that you set the tone as a leader, as an entrepreneur or whatever with your team, and you set those expectations. And this is 2 years ago. I still get thanked to this day for doing that.
Yeah. But Jason, it's funny, like the company that I left to come start this one, right? The same thing happened there.
Really?
There's a person there that had done some stuff over and over, a big loan officer, like does a lot of volume and did stuff, but people left the company because of what this person would do.
Right.
But they held on to that loan officer because of the money that they generated.
Right.
But what it did is it hurt the actual office.
Right.
And it also hurt the actual region of the company. And that was what's being talked about is, oh my gosh, like they care more about that particular person's revenue than they did what they actually did to all their team members and what they said and what they yelled at them and what they were telling them to do.
Right.
Which was illegal. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what's funny to me is like, what do you think the culture is now? It's like, oh, we can get away with stuff here.
Yeah. I mean, you're setting the tone. You are setting yourself up to fail.
Correct.
When you have a culture like that.
Correct.
And the funny thing is like, I don't know the situation, but I bet you the people at the top are so scared to address that person.
Correct.
Because they're so worried
because they don't know if they can duplicate that person.
But
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like when you lose that amount of revenue, they sit there and look at the bottom line and think like, man, that's a lot. Of money.
Yeah, but how much
I
more money?
don't know if we can I don't know if we can duplicate that, but you hit it on the head. Yeah. What they're realizing is it's hurting the culture.
Right.
And people now don't want to come to work here.
Right.
Because they know of what possibly could happen.
Which loan officers talk. Loan officers have social media.
Staff talks.
It gets out to the public. It gets out to the consumer base. And, stuff. How much more has that cost them? And it's going to multiply and keep multiplying as issues get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Correct.
It's crazy to me that people don't care about that. Yeah. That it's just like inviting that cancer.
Transactional.
It's transactional. And when you're super transactional, you could be transactional and be successful for a quick minute.
Yeah.
But to be truly... to create that like that relationship wealth or relational wealth or that, or and even wealth in general, you have to care about the end user or your team or whoever you're being involved with more than anything else, because that gets out. And especially today, it's hyper competitive. There's a lot of mortgage companies out there. There are a lot of options for mortgage officers to work for. Yep. There's a lot of options for the consumer base to get a mortgage from.
Yep.
Why would you try to self-destruct yourself? Like they are self-destructing themselves by showing everybody that they care more about the bottom line than anything. And the funny thing is like a lot of high performers or a lot of people like that just push the envelope, but they owe it to you all. I mean, now you're gone, but they owe it to the team to have that conversation with that person, and maybe a conversation like reach down and grab a pair if you got it, and say, man, you're messing up. You're doing these things. Me and you love to be held accountable probably. And that's probably why we're in the positions we're in. Yeah. And more often than not, maybe you could coach that person into being a better performer or being, because maybe they're just getting away with stuff because they think they can. Yeah. But if they can't, then you need to set that expectation. You need to draw a line. If you violate it, hey, we got to move in a different direction because you're destroying the entire company's integrity. And when you're building a brand out there, like your culture is your brand. If they find out, it's just kind of like, there's a bank out there, maybe that rhymes with Wells Fargo, that keeps doing, I feel like every other weekend they're getting fined for something. They just got fined for like $3 billion. Yeah. And you're creating that brand, that recognition in the wrong way, that you care more about your bottom line and forcing your employees to do stuff than you care about what should be like real and legal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The one thing that I wanted to address, as we kind of wrap this thing up a little bit here, what's funny is like we started to work with the number one team in the state of Utah. So there's a big real estate group down in St. George. They dominate the state of Utah. Right. And our loan company, we got in with them. We're working with them. And what's been fun about that is they've always had a couple different mortgage companies in there with them. Right. And we were able to take it to where it's just us. Wow. Like they trusted to just us. Congrats. So what's been cool about that though, Jason, is the culture that they have in there. Right. Because every time I walk into that office, and I can't say much because of non-disclosure stuff, right? I'll get in deep trouble here. Right. But the culture that you have with a mission statement, with every morning you rah-rah. I call it rah-rah, right? And a lot of people make fun of the rah-rah. But what's funny to me, Jason, is you guys do the rah-rah and have a mission statement and have goals and talk about it and probably role play and help each other out as a collective group.
For sure.
I go into this place sometimes and it's 30 real estate agents. They've got a mission statement they repeat every morning. They rah-rah. They basically role play every morning. They do a lot of good stuff there, you know, and I can't go into a lot of detail, but like these guys are the number one team in the state and we laugh about it because I'm like, this is a freaking cult.
Right.
But what they do is they train people like in a mindset level that nobody else ever does, which is a belief of, hey, we can do this. Hey, here's where we're headed. And oh, by the way, here's the training that we give in order to get to where we're going.
Right.
Where a lot of people are just like, hey, we provide leads to you, so just call them. And oh, by the way, you suck, so you're fired.
Yeah.
And oh, you were here for 3 months. I don't know why you couldn't figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But people don't take the time and effort to start with them from the beginning, give them a proper training, get them in the proper group, and then create that culture to become the number one team. I'm like, every time I walk in there, I'm like, you guys don't know how good you have it.
Yeah, and I go back to sports, the Popovich effect.
Yeah.
I mean, he never had great draft picks, but he's got a lot of Hall of Famers that played for him.
Correct.
And it's just creating that team and that culture. And it's funny, like, you know, you call it the rah-rah. Well, you look at any sports team out there. What do they do every time out? You know, family on 3, boom, team. Or team on, 1, 2, 3, team. Yep. It's always saying, like, it's just getting everybody together. And, you know, being able to create that culture, that team aspect. I mean, we see it positives and negatives in sports. There's a lot of great athletes. Antonio Brown, call him out. One of the best receivers in the history of the game. Could have been a Hall of Famer. Probably isn't going to be because bad culture. No one wants him. One of the best talented dudes out there. No one wants him.
Yep.
And so it's funny that there's just people that like almost make fun of that. Or they think it's like, oh, like people are. I mean, I have a family member that love to do to death, but he views every single person as a dollar sign and every single person as expendable.
There you go. Yep. And I think the big thing here, Jason, is like people just don't understand the power of bringing a group together, but a lot of it's the leader. Right. Like I sit here and listen to you talk. Like anybody that listens back to this, I'm like, Jason's well ahead of his time. Like, dude, I'm 10 years older than you. It took me 10 years to figure out what you just talked about.
Right.
But it took a lot of, like, I just sit there and I watch people. Like, I observe, I sit there and soak it in. I'm like, I really like that about you, but I don't like that about you. So I'm not going to do that.
Right.
And I like that about this situation, but I don't like that about that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of like my leadership skills just come off of highly successful people that have been around, and I sit there and I watch and I observe in different situations. And what's funny is listening to you talk and being that giver, as I'm like, dude, that took me a while to figure that out.
Right.
Because as a salesman, you always start as a transactional person.
Right.
Because what you're driven by is making money.
Right.
And then you have bills that you got to pay, so you got to make some money.
Right.
And then once it flipped to a game, it was like, dude, this is completely different.
Oh, totally.
And I think what I'm jealous about, dude, is like you had a dad that taught you that for so many years.
Right.
And not saying that my dad didn't teach me great values and stuff like that, but your dad was almost like this coach on steroids.
Right.
That ingrained this into you. So at 18, 22, 23, you're well ahead of your time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. I mean, it's just, dude, I got such a burning desire to help people. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I feel like that's my mission. I mean, I have the Haugen Family Foundation. I mean, we just want to help people, right?
Yep.
And I do a lot of culture coaching and because I care so much about like making people better. And like, even personally, like I'm like, look, like I even told today on the call, like, hey, like I need you to become better personally. So I need you 3 goals personally and 3 goals what you do in work, because you become better at home. How can you be better at home? What can we do for you?
Yeah.
You know, you need sometimes make more money, sometimes do this and whatever. And then let's figure out work, because we got to get ourselves better before.
Yeah.
I buy everybody books. We have book clubs. Like I just want everybody to be better. But it starts from the top down. You have to have that passion, that vision to where you want to go and the culture you're going to create.
Yep.
And, I'm not going to, I guess say one's, my way is always the right way, but I've been uber successful at a very young age and been able to, at 24 years old to have an RV company that everybody was bleeding me, and not saying it's about me, but it's getting people to buy into the vision.
There you go.
And trust me, when we buy a dealership, when I'm 25, or 26, and they found out we got sold and owners coming in, and they what the frick is this? Is
a little kid coming in?
Yeah. But I go in there a certain way, and I have a whole dynamic, and that's a whole other conversation of how I gain the trust with people. Bro. But it's just, man, and you got to love what you do. And I love my people. I love my family. I love everything about what I do, and have that passion of, and now it's a game. Like, even the culture's a game. Like, how can I make this better? And want to get it better, and the will and the vision to do that.
For those people, I guess, to kind of end on this, Jason, like, what would be the one takeaway from your life growing up with your dad, doing what you've been doing, people that are looking to basically start a business or kind of do stuff on their own? Let's not even say start a business, but be a part of the culture, let's say, right? What would be your one takeaway or one thing to give them? What would you say or explain to them on where to start or where to find that or what to do?
I mean, find a passion of what you love to do, and that makes you super, super happy, and feel whatever in your version, because there's no right or wrong version of success. Whatever you view success, and be able to go down that avenue, and to be a part of either a team or something that fulfills you in like a, you can say it a spiritual way, but like in a very, big way, and feeling fulfilled, and get a dream that's so big that there's nothing getting in the way from it, way of it. Yeah. I mean, the worst thing you can do is have a dream and an obstacle gets in the way, and then you deviate from your dream. Stay true to who you are, and you get a dream so big that no one can stop you, and let every obstacle just kick every obstacle, and you're going to run into a lot of obstacles, but have that burning desire and that vision to look so far ahead, but then also right in front of you to be able to execute where nothing can stop you. Because when I was a young dude, I know I'm taking a long time to answer this question, but I went into an RV show one time up in Oregon at a casino in August of 2018. I'll never forget. And I went to a table. I had no idea a single person was there. And I flew in, drove the hour and a half over down there, and just looked at a table. And man, these guys look successful. And I sat down and was like, you guys look like a table I should get to know. And they were like, who's this kid? At the time, they had no idea who I was. And I got laughed. I told them I was going to be the biggest. There was a manufacturer there that I am going to be the biggest you ever had. And they're like, whatever. And one guy there kind of was like, hey, I kind of believe you. And I'm, so-and-so, I'm a consultant and blah, blah, blah. And he's become my biggest mentor in the RV industry. Yeah. And that person that kind of was like, that whole table. Now I'm one of their best friends. And that guy is in charge of about $7 billion worth of business in the RV industry. He actually pulled my mom and dad aside at this RV show and was like, you know what Jason told me back in 2018? He was going to do X, and look, he's doing it. And the guy started sobbing. It's awesome. And don't let anybody tell you can't do something, because you can do anything you put your mind to, and surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. No, appreciate you coming on, dude.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.